Lately, I've been seeing more and more people talking about leaving Australia, and you might have heard this too with the rising cost of living, insane house prices, and overall lifestyle changes are making people question whether the Australian dream is still worth it. I recently saw a story of a couple that's lived here for 8 years and their Australian dream has got shattered after 8 years of working here, paying taxes, and another girl that's lived here and has literally made a whole page on TikTok about how much she loves Australia, only to be sent back. But is everyone overreacting, or is there something real behind this trend of leaving Australia and maybe it being overrated, the Australian dream not being true or not worth it? Let's break it down. So first up, why are people leaving? There is no denying that year by year, Australia is becoming more expensive, and this contributes as a factor to why people are packing up. The cost of living crisis. Australia, no doubt, is one of the most expensive countries in the world. Rent prices are skyrocketing. There's lines outside of many rentals, even when they're an atrocious amount of rent per month. Grocery costs are insane as well. Major supermarkets like Coles and Woolworths, their prices have skyrocketed, and everyday expenses feel like they've doubled in just a few years. When I came here in 2019, it wasn't as bad. I never thought to complain about the cost of living as much as people did, but definitely now I see it, even though I work full-time now. So people are starting to wonder, why struggle here when you could comfortably live somewhere cheaper? Some of my friends from work have moved back to their country because they're like, I can't save anything to do anything fun. I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck and living to work basically, because it's so expensive here. And if I go back home, I can afford so many things. So cost of living affordability is definitely a factor, and so is housing affordability. Remember when owning a home was part of the Australian dream? That dream feels almost impossible. The median house price, at least in Sydney, is over $1.5 million, and even in smaller cities it's still unaffordable. Some people are choosing to leave instead of being stuck in a lifetime of mortgage stress. On top of the cost of living crisis, if you can hear stuff in the background, it's because it's raining here, so please excuse the noise. Let's talk about the job market now. Australia has high wages on paper, but if you factor in taxes and the cost of living, many people feel like they're not actually getting ahead. Some industries are thriving. I've made a whole other video on industries that are booming right now and need a lot of personnel, but others are struggling. Especially for younger workers, it's very frustrating because they don't see a clear career progression in their industry. Now let's talk about the visa and immigration challenges that a lot of people face. Now this is a huge one. Australia's visa policies are constantly changing. From what I've seen, the government is tightening skilled migration pathways, making it harder for workers to get permanent residency. And this used to be easier, and that's why people thought the Australian dream is worth it. The 485 visa holders, which is the temporary graduate visa, which a lot of people come for, now has fewer options for permanent residency. Partner visa wait times are really long, so a lot of international students and skilled migrants are finding it harder to stay in Australia long term, so they might be looking at places like Canada, the UK or Europe instead. Now recently, the Gold Coast also had a cyclone called Cyclone Alfred, and it was pretty bad. Between the summer heat waves, bushfires and floods, some people are choosing to move to places with more stable weather and fewer natural disasters, so that can be a contributing factor as well. And with remote work being more common, people are also choosing to live in countries where the dollar stretches further. Southeast Asia, Canada, or even New Zealand are becoming popular alternatives because there are better opportunities abroad, or where their remote work income can benefit them a whole lot more than it would in Australia's housing and cost of living crisis. Now, I have mentioned before in my videos that work-life balance is encouraged in Australia, and Australia is known for its laid-back lifestyle. That's what it's advertised as, but in reality, a lot of people will also work long hours to make ends meet because of the cost of living crisis, and with commuting, overtime and side hustles being the norm, work-life balance can feel like a myth sometimes for some people. So is the Australian dream dead or just changing? The traditional Australian dream, a house with a backyard, a secure job, and a comfortable lifestyle by the beach hopefully, may not be realistic for everyone anymore, but that doesn't mean it's completely dead. It's just changing. For some, this dream looks like renting long term instead of buying, living in smaller cities or regional areas, pursuing remote work or freelancing to have more flexibility, traveling and living overseas instead of settling in one place. Now, are people overreacting? Now, here's the thing, some of these issues aren't just an Australian problem. The cost of living is rising globally, so the grass isn't always greener, but Australia, its affordability and visa policies can be challenging. So it's fair for people to question whether it's still worth it to stay here or look for something better somewhere else. My final verdict on is Australia overrated? Absolutely not. It is one of the best places to live, at least in my opinion. I incredibly fell in love with it like a lot of people, but there are definitely challenges to overcome if you want to keep living this lifestyle. And it can make you reconsider, and that's okay. One shoe doesn't fit all or many. So what do you think? Are you planning to stay or have you thought about leaving Australia? Let me know in the comments or DM me any questions you have on Instagram. I'm posting every day on here about moving to Australia, studying here, working here, and self-development. So follow along and I'll see you next time.